Thank you very much. Chairman Gowdy, Ranking Member Lofgren, and members of the subcommittee, it's an honor to be here today to offer our views about U.S. asylum policy. My name is Eleanor Acer, and I direct the Refugee Protection Program at Human Rights First. Human Rights First is an independent advocacy organization that challenges America to live up to its ideals and assert its leadership on human rights. In our work, we develop partnerships with retired military leaders, former law enforcement officials, faith leaders, tech companies, and others to drive home the point that human rights are universal ideals and American values. With offices in New York, Washington, D.C., and soon in Houston, Texas, we oversee one of the largest pro bono refugee representation programs in the country, working in partnership with volunteer lawyers at some of the nation's leading law firms. Providing refuge for the persecuted is a core American value, reflecting this country's deep commitment to liberty and human dignity, as well as its pledge under the post-World War II Refugee Convention's protocol. At Human Rights First, we see every day the ways in which people are protected through the U.S. asylum system. They are victims of religious persecution, women targeted for honor killings, trafficking, and horrific domestic violence, people targeted because of their ethnicity or sexual identity, and human rights advocates who stand up against oppression. You know these stories, Mr. Chairman, because as Americans, we are defined by our global stance against injustice and a fair system for equal opportunity. A strong asylum and immigration system that adjudicates cases in a fair and timely manner and includes effective tools for fighting abuse is essential to the integrity of the U.S. asylum process and to protect those fleeing persecution. When individuals or groups defraud the system, it hurts everyone, and steps should be taken to counter those abuses and punish the perpetrators. U.S. authorities have a range of tools to address these abuses. Many of the existing tools are outlined in my written testimony, including multiple identity and background checks, personnel in multiple agencies charged with detecting and investigating fraud, and the ability to refer for prosecution those who perpetrate fraud. That's particularly important because it sends a message that fraud will not be tolerated. But you asked today if these safeguards are in place, what else can be done to strengthen the asylum system? And with the increase in credible fear claims in the border, are there additional steps that should be taken to safeguard the system? There are ways to handle these challenges that will reflect American values and strengthen the asylum system. First, as I mentioned, immigration agencies should utilize and increase as necessary anti-fraud tools, and prosecution should be continued and stepped up. Another critical step also deserves attention. USCIS and EOIR should be properly staffed and resourced to adjudicate cases in a fair and timely manner and to eliminate backlogs that can be a magnet for abuse. Delays both increase the vulnerability of our immigration system to abuse and prevent refugees from having their cases adjudicated in a timely manner, often leaving refugee families stranded in difficult and dangerous situations abroad. Asylum office and immigration court staffing should be increased to ensure timely in-person credible fear interviews, timely referrals of affirmative asylum claims that are not granted in the immigration courts, and the elimination of prolonged delays and substantial backlogs in the immigration courts. As we seek to strengthen the system, we should also address the many ways in which refugees often find themselves lingering for months in jails and jail-like detention centers, or denied or delayed in receiving protection. Unjust and unnecessary barriers that deny or delay protection to refugees, like the filing deadline bar to asylum, should be eliminated. In addition, the recommendations of the bipartisan U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom relating to expedited removal and detention should be implemented, including its recommendations on parole for eligible asylum seekers and the expansion of legal orientation presentations. Congress should support the increased use of alternatives to detention as well, as detailed in my testimony. While steps can and should be taken to strengthen the asylum system, it is absolutely essential that any changes in the law be very thoroughly thought out so that they do not further risk returning refugees to persecution or further prolonging detention in cases where it's unnecessary. 30 years ago, President Ronald Reagan signed into law the Refugee Act of 1980, which passed Congress with bipartisan support, enshrining into domestic law America's historic commitment to protect the persecuted. Yesterday, as was noted earlier, 10 leading Republicans issued a statement in support of this country's commitment to protect the persecuted, stating that, quote, "Our policies towards refugees are at the heart of our American values." These individuals included former Secretary of Commerce Carlos Gutierrez, Governor Tom Ridge, Senator Mel Martinez, Dr. Paula Dobriansky, Governor Sam Brownback, Governor Jeb Bush, Grover Norquist, Jim Ziegler, Alberto Moro, and Suhail A. Khan. Mr. Chairman, we appreciate your entering that document into the record today. America should not abandon its compassion, but should stand firm as a beacon of hope that will not turn its back on those seeking protection from persecution. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share these views with you today.
Thank you, Ms. Acer.